Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of, well, tutorials. Today we're going to be going over a very simple topic, and one that is actually a little confusing, honestly. It's attack rating. So attack rating is kind of confusing, especially since, and this is important, that the character screen often lies to you about the correct percentage for you to hit a monster. The exact formula for attack rating is a bit complicated, and I'd like to bring it up on screen here, but at the same time, I don't expect you guys to completely understand this gobbledygook of a formula. But I'm going to bring it up anyway. It is, let me actually divide this into a couple subsections so it doesn't look so intimidating. So it's chance to hit equals 2 times your basically your at level divided by at level plus defense level times AR divided by AR plus defense multiplied by 100 to get chance to hit. All right, and it's kind of complicated, but let me see if I can explain this to you guys in a way that makes sense. First off, one of the things that the game takes into account very highly is the level of your character. Now, this is never represented properly on the character screen, and it's actually a formula that occurs behind the scenes, and it's not in front of you. And it's not really your fault for not knowing this, if you haven't already known this, is that basically your level is a factor in how often you're actually going to hit a monster. So, for instance, if I'm a level 1 character and I'm in the Bloodmoor fighting level 1 monsters, then there's a very good chance I have a equal percentage chance to whatever says on the calculator that is correct. So if it says I have a 95% chance to hit a Fallen in the Bloodmoor as a level 1 character, then I can probably take that as the law, essentially, right? However, if I'm level 2 and the monster is level 1, now there is a difference in level between us. And this difference in level between us does, in fact, actually change the percentage. Attack rating is going to be your main causal factor in how you hit a target. Now, the level difference thing you can't control, but what you can control is the amount of attack rating that you have. Now, the main way that we obtain an attack rating as characters in Diablo is the skill itself. So if you take a look at the skills, they usually have something on them, like, for instance, and of course I'm in the way, as always. If you take a look at the skill, you'll see that they have like 520% increased attack rating. Like 248% increased attack rating. And while this is certainly very nice, it's still just a percentage. And unfortunately, percentages tend to be pretty terrible. What I'd like to do is actually bring up a calculator and kind of show you what it's like to have a horrible percentage, like a ridiculoly good percentage actually is what I mean, and not enough attack rating to actually make it work. Alright, so here's a calculator, and what we're going to do is let's pretend we have a total of, I don't know, 1,000% increased attack rating, right? So we have an amazing level of increased attack rating. But we only have about 100 actual attack rating, actual real attack rating points, right? So we take our 100 real attack rating and we plus 1,000%. And as you can see, we end up with 1,100 attack rating, which really isn't a lot, especially if you consider the fact that right now I'm running 5,848, and I believe if I go out here and attack a monster, which, by the way, the easiest way to get this to change is just to take a swing at any monster. It doesn't matter. Take a swing, and the attack rating will change based upon that monster that you're hitting. So it's going to give you a calculation based on the monster that you just recently poked at. Now you can see here I have an 83% chance with 5,848 attack rating. And 83% is definitely a much better percent chance than what I would get with 1,100. So having an insanely high percentage doesn't necessarily mean anything if you don't actually have raw attack rating to take advantage of that percentage. Now, granted, you still want to have that percentage. You still want to have that percentage increase, because then once you add those small amounts of attack rating, they will have huge effects. And I think the easiest way for me to show you this is to do something like grab an attack rating item. Let's see, do I have a Ravenfrost on? I have a Bolt Cathos. Alright, here's a Ravenfrost. And as you can see, the Ravenfrost has a total of 250 attack rating on it, which doesn't seem like a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. It also has 20 dexterity, which is a pretty massive amount of attack rating. Dexterity gives, if I remember correctly, 5 attack rating per point, so that's 5 times 10 is 50, and 5 times 10 is 50, so we're looking at 100. So putting on Ravenfrost should theoretically give us only about 350 attack rating, raw number. But when we actually put it on, you'll notice that we go from a pretty low 5,848 to a massively high 8,256. And this is, of course, because the attack rating from the ring is getting multiplied by the other sources. And this is pretty crazy, because you can utilize items like this to increase your attack rating by massive proportions. One such ridiculous bonus is the Angelic Amulet and Ring set. And I'm sure I have those around here somewhere. Now, here is the Angelic Ring set, and I'm going to go ahead and put this on my character. And as you notice, I get no set bonus for the rings themselves. It's only the 2-piece bonus between the amulet and the ring. And you end up with a pretty amazing amount of attack rating, which is 1,188 attack rating, which is based on character level, of course. And this character is level 99, so she's getting the highest possible rating. But you also get this twice, and you also grab a 10 dexterity from the set bonus, which means you end up with another, as we talked about earlier, 5 per dexterity point, which is a total of 50. So you end up with 1,188 times 2 plus 50, which is a pretty crazy amount of attack rating. But as you can see on my character, it doesn't really seem like all that much, because I have 950 base attack rating right now with 200 dexterity, which is because I just slammed those points onto this character. And when I put these rings and the amulet on, I go to 3,376, which isn't really that much in terms of attack rating. However, if we were to take these and throw these on that barbarian that has the ridiculous amounts of plus percentage increase, that's where things get crazy. So we take the Immortal King Barbarian here, and I can throw these amulets and rings on him, and what you're going to see is a drastic change in his attack rating. So he's going to go from that 8,000 that he has right now to 20,000 attack rating. All right, so never underestimate the power of raw attack rating, even if it's from very small things like charms. Like, say for instance you had a charm on your character and it had plus 20 attack rating or plus 30 attack rating. That 30 attack rating can be a massive bump in the actual overall attack rating that you have, because of all of those plus percentages that you get from various sources. And if you are one of these classes that has like these massive plus percentages, like the 224% from Blade Mastery and the 475% from the Berserk skill, and so forth and so on, it comes out to be some pretty amazing numbers. Now, there are certain characters that have trouble with this. They don't have any really good ways to increase their attack rating, and these are usually non-melee characters, non-ranged characters in the first place. There are also other ways to increase your to-hit chance against a target besides just increasing your attack rating, and that involves things like negative target defense and negative target defense per hit. And there's quite a few different items and abilities in the game that have this effect. It is important to note, however, that negative target's defense, although it works very well against most targets, against bosses it is at half effectiveness. However, as you saw with the formula that we were looking at earlier, the defense of a monster definitely does come into the equation when determining whether you can hit the monster. So reducing the monster's defense by a rather large percentage can have a huge increase in your to-hit chance versus that monster. Now, granted, if the monster is much higher level than you, you're still going to have trouble hitting him no matter what. And this is unfortunately what happens with monsters like Uber Diablo. If we were to pull up Uber Diablo, for instance, on a website, what you'll find out about Uber Diablo is that he has a level of 110. Right, and because Uber Diablo is M level 110, it means that when you fight him on pretty much any character, even if you're level 99, even if you're C level 99, you're still way lower than he is in level. You're 11 levels lower than Uber Diablo, which means there's always going to be a penalty for hitting him. And unfortunately, this is one of the big downsides of freaking just attack rating and defense calculations and two-hit calculations just in general, is that most characters won't get to level 99 anyway, so we're probably talking at more like around level 93, and that means that there is always going to be a level difference between you and the monster that you're hitting of 17, right? So with a level difference of 17, basically around C level 93, you can see how hitting Diablo is sometimes an issue. And this is why certain abilities in the game that are guaranteed hits become so popular, because they preclude attack rating as an option in their formulas. One such very easy way to avoid having to use attack rating as a calculation is to use Smite, which is a paladin ability, or to use the new Impale, which is an Amazon ability. So once you have played around with some of these crazy abilities that have no two-hit chance, you really start to understand the difference between, being able to hit a target every single time and not. However, it's also important to remember that just because you have an ability that is capable of hitting a monster every single time, and there are only 3 of them in the game essentially right now as far as melee and ranged abilities, and that is Guided Arrow, which is the Amazon bow skill, Impale, which is the Amazon spear skill, and Smite, which is the paladin combat skill. And these 3 abilities have the ability to hit a target every single time. However, there are other calculations that come into play for hitting a target besides just attack rating. And this is where things get murky, where you have to really kind of like think about it a little bit more than just simply, okay, well, what's my percent chance to hit? Because there are other calculations that come into play. Number 1, block chance. There are monsters in the game that can block attacks. Bale, for instance, can block attacks, and you will see this happen. Evade. So evasions, like the Amazon evasions, avoid, evade, and dodge. Those are the 3 Amazon evasions, and they can all create a situation where you will not have technically missed, but you will not hit the target. On top of that, we also have the claw block. So claw block is another way that you can essentially evade or avoid a skill to make sure that it is not actually hitting a target. And once you come into play all these various elements of, like, did you actually hit the target, your percent chance is going to be a lot lower than you think. Because, if you have, say, even if you have a 95% chance to hit a target, okay, you still have a monster has a 75% chance to block you, right? So there is a 75% chance that the monster will block your attack, right? So doesn't matter that you have a 95% chance to hit, because you still have a 5% miss chance, and there's a 75% chance that the monster will block your attack, which means that your overall percent chance that you're actually going to hit the target is a lot lower than you think. To complicate matters, there are also some various bugs in the game that have to do with some not so fun things. The Amazon skill Penetrate can be overridden by Blessed Aim. I don't know why exactly this is, and it's something that I hope that they will eventually address. But the Amazon passive Penetrate, which is basically just attack rating, that's all it really is. It's just raw attack rating bonus. When you have the Blessed Aim aura at the same time as the Penetrate skill, The old Blessed Aim aura will override the Penetrate skill, even if the Blessed Aim is less attack rating percentage than Penetrate, and they don't actually stack. So it's unfortunate. In fact, you should generally just avoid using Blessed Aim on an Amazon, specifically for that reason, because the Penetrate ability doesn't function well with Blessed Aim. Another kind of a sad thing is that attack rating tends to not be applied properly to ranged abilities. So I'm not exactly sure why this is, but basically any ability that technically counts as a ranged ability, as far as the bow and crossbow skill tree that shows a bonus AR percentage, doesn't actually apply its bonus AR percentage properly. And this is strictly for bow and crossbow skills and also for double throw. So when you're utilizing bow and crossbow skills and when you're utilizing the double throw skill on the barbarian, unfortunately what you have to do is you have to go off your normal attack rating. So like for instance, if I were using strafe right now, I would go to the regular attack and take a look at my attack rating for my regular attack and utilize that as my number, not the attack that actually says on the strafe skill. Now this is a bug, and I'm hoping that they will eventually address this in one of the future patches, but you know, as it is right now, they have not. Power Strike is another ability that is also bugged, and this also happens to be on the Amazon. Power Strike is not really that popular of a skill anyway, but it also does not properly apply its attack rating bonus as it should. And, I mean, at the end of the day, what it really comes down to, for you guys and gals out there who don't want to have to go through the headache of trying to figure out all the formulas and everything, I'm going to give you the skinny. So the higher level your character is, the better your to-hit percentage is going to be. This is something that you're just going to have to innately know. If you're a lower level character and you're going up against higher level monsters and you're missing a lot, don't assume that your attack rating is bad. Assume that you have a huge penalty against you for fighting monsters that are much higher level than you are. And as you level up your character, you will probably notice that that to-hit chance gets better and better with each level that you rise. Raw attack rating is generally better than plus percentage. This is kind of a big thing with the attack rating world, is that plus percentage, although it's kind of nice, doesn't really do a whole lot unless you have the raw attack rating to make it work. And this also comes into play with things like block chance. So because block chance requires dexterity, if you build 75% block chance on a character that requires attack rating, like for instance a paladin or a barbarian or whatever, you will have to build your dexterity to a certain point to reach that block chance. And in the process, that dexterity will also be multiplied as attack rating. So for every point that you have to put into dexterity to reach that 75% block chance, say you have to put in 100 points, you are going to get 100 times 5, which is 500 attack rating, which is then going to get multiplied by all of your skill attack rating bonuses, except for the boson. And this is absolutely great. So always keep in mind that raw attack rating is definitely much better. And this can come in a multitude of forms. You can have raw attack rating in charms. You can have raw attack rating on your rings and amulets. You can have raw attack rating on your weapon. You can have raw attack rating coming from, you know, like even something as simple as like your amulet. Like Metal Grid has a really nice amount of attack rating on it. I think it's like 400 and some odd attack rating. And these raw attack rating numbers multiply very nicely. Another thing is that negative monster defense is much more effective in general than attack rating. It's been my experience that even just negative 25% monster defense, or something like the Amazon passive Inner Sight, which reduces the monster's defense directly, these things can be far more effective than plus percentage will ever be, because you're not just reducing the amount of attack rating that you need, you're reducing the overall defense of the monster, which means that you need less attack rating in general to defeat that monster's defenses. And at extremely high levels, things like Inner Sight or items like the Flesh Ripper Fang Knife that have negative 50% enemy defense on them can be extremely effective. Now, it is important to note that items like Flesh Ripper that have negative 50% enemy monster enemy defense is halved versus bosses, so it's only 25% versus bosses. But a 25% defense reduction versus a boss is huge because they have such a large amount of defense to begin with. And you can even stack it even higher than that. So like something like Flesh Ripper Fang Knife that already has negative 50%, you could throw another Eth rune in there and you can bring it up to negative 75%, almost completely eliminating all defense requirements from the calculation. In fact, if you combined it with something like Inner Sight, which is relatively easy to get your hands on in the form of an Act 1 Merc, or if you're an Amazon, you can cast it yourself, you can combine the negative defense and the negative monster defense direct numbers together, and the monster will effectively have no defense versus you at all, and you won't really need any attack rating at all anyway. And this is the basics of attack rating. If you have any questions about attack rating, anything specific, feel free to ask them down below. I do have a separate video coming out on ignores target's defense, which I feel like needs to be kind of its own video. And the reason why is just because in general it's not really the same calculations. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when I'm just rambling on about attack rating for 20 minutes. And as always, keep watching.